to speak with his team and maybe bring him on board?
No, I was just saying it for the MMA hour, to be honest with you. I spoke to Francis Ngannou, who's a fine gentleman, would love to work with him. I told him that you have to navigate this choppy sea of boxing, and we would love to look at an Anthony Joshua fight. He's got the Tyson Fury fight as well. Ultimately, AJ's ambition is to become world heavyweight champion again. That doesn't involve Francis Ngannou, but if there isn't an opportunity to fight for the world heavyweight title, we would be willing to explore that this summer. It's a mega fight. Obviously, it's a fight that would create huge attention worldwide. But first things first for Anthony Joshua, April 1st, O2 Arena, press conference next week.
Away from AJ, do you not maybe look at him as an opponent first things first, like the Derek Chisora?
No, I think Francis Ngannou will want to and should want to move into the biggest fight possible. And there's only two of them, Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. They're the biggest fights out there for him. Maybe Deontay Wilder, but Dillian Whyte would take that fight, but I think he's going to look to maximise his position, make as much money as possible, and he wants the biggest fights out there.
Is there a struggle with that if, or most people will say when he loses, if he goes straight into a Tyson Fury or an AJ? I think he's only really got one shot.
No, I think if you lose from there, you come back, you can potentially rebuild, but this is his opportunity. And from speaking to him, I think that's what he wants to do.
What do you think of Francis' skills overall, just in striking?
I think at the end of the day, he's not going to be able to compete with the skills of a boxer, but one thing he can do is punch. He's very heavy-handed, so he has to fight a style that he has a chance of, like a Fury fight is very awkward for him. He messed around, and I don't think that's the right style for him. An AJ fight, a Wilder fight, a Dillian Whyte fight, where people are prepared to trade and could get hit by heavy shots, it makes it more competitive.
Eddie, in your opinion, you are making history in the female boxing, your opinion?
My opinion, yes. I've been making history in female boxing for a long time. We're doing it again on Saturday night. We're not here to tick boxes. We're not here just to look good by putting female boxing on. Female boxing is here by its own ability and its own demand. We'll be sold out in here on Saturday night. We just sold out the big room for Taylor Serrano. These are great fights, great champions, and we'll be investing heavily in women's boxing moving forward.
We saw that one, Joyce Zhang today, obviously Zhang, something you work with. Talking about making that fight, how easy or difficult was it?
Yeah, it was, again, great relationship with George Warren. They wanted to make that fight. Zhang had a situation with us where we had matching rights on his fights moving forward. I spoke to George Warren. Zhang wanted to make that fight. I was happy with the offer that was made to Zhang. And me and George got the final bits over the line. I think it's a really good fight.
This seems to be, for Zhang at least, a much more of a win-win scenario for him. If he wins, he beats somebody in Joyce, who everybody sees as a top 5 heavyweight, cements himself back in there, whereas Joyce, not necessarily the same, but where does Zhang go if he's successful?
I mean, he's in a great position. That he's at the back end of his career, but he can really punch. I mean, I think everybody, including Zhilei Zhang, is going to struggle with the work rate of Joe Joyce, and Joe Joyce will overrun Zhilei Zhang, but he can really punch with the backhand. And Joe Joyce will be open, as always, to get hit flush on the chin. It's just, people talk about how good Joe Joyce's chin is. He's never really fought a massive puncher, other than potentially Daniel Dubois, that didn't really hit him on the chin, strangely, in that fight. So I think he's a massive favourite against Zhilei Zhang. But Zhang can really punch with the backhand, and if he times him onto one, I think he'll be interested. But obviously Joe is, with his style and against a much older man, he's a big favourite in that fight.
Hey Eddie,
what's the latest with Philip?
He's been asked to have an interim world title fight against Andy Ruiz. We'd like to make that fight. Obviously Ruiz is looking at the Wilder fight as well. We've spoken to Tom Brown, there's some back and forth. I don't think Andy Ruiz will take the fight against Filip Hrgovic, but that's what's been ordered and we're exploring that.
Edgar Berlanga. I spoke to him and he did say to me that he's meeting with Al Heyman today. Do you fancy your chances to land that one, and who could you see him potentially fight?
I think Edgar Berlanga is a fighter that everybody wants. Us, PBC, he obviously was with ESPN, Golden Boy. I think we've got a great plan for Edgar Berlanga. We can headline him, we can continue his rise, we continue his popularity, and ultimately we can deliver him the Canelo Alvarez fight.
How soon did that happen?
He needs to prove against world-class opposition that he's in a position to fight Canelo Alvarez. But it's Mexico against Puerto Rico. It's a massive fight, but he still has to have those fights, and we'll be happy to give him those fights before we look at Canelo Alvarez in May 2024.
Can he go in and start headlining like he was the other day?
Absolutely. He's done huge gates here before. He's a big star in the right fights. Edgar Berlanga is a headline attraction for sure.
Canelo gets
supposedly moving up to 154 to fight Thurman. Do you think he will end up coming back down to 47, or you think of just like...
No, I think he's been 147 for a long time. I think he's very tight of weight. When you look at the the mileage on Errol spent through the accident, through the eye operation and stuff like that, it's just going to be harder for him to start making weight. I don't know him personally, so I can't tell you, but I believe, I remember seeing him in Sheffield when he made 47, which was years ago, and I'm surprised he's still there. Respect to him and the way that obviously he makes that weight, but I see him moving up, and I guess 154 is his future.
Canelo against Bivol. So what weight class is that going to be? Is it going to be 168 or 75?
Canelo would like that fight at 175 because he feels that's where he lost before. But Dimitri Bivol wants legacy, and if he wants legacy and belts and can make 168 safely, which they say he can, then maybe we can make that fight at 68 to provide an undisputed opportunity for Dimitri Bivol. But if you ask Canelo Alvarez, he would say probably 175 because that's where I lost. I don't want people to think that I've brought him down. This is not Canelo Alvarez saying bring him down to 168. This is just a way to maybe make the fight to give Dimitri Bivol more opportunity at legacy.
And what do you prefer?
Last question.
Just your views and opinions on that, and what you can do as a sport to help fighters post-boxing.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about fighters' personal life, but Kell Brook is a fighter that walks away from the sport and has a big hole in his life when you leave boxing or you leave something that you love. And boxing has been Kell Brook's life for years and years and years, and you see that when that buzz leaves you, you can put yourself in a difficult place mentally. Kell Brook is someone we have a huge history with. One thing I'll tell you about Kell Brook is he's a good person with a huge heart, and we should all support him, and his family should and will support him, of course. Boxing should support him, and I'm sure that he'll be back on the horse, and like I said, he's a good man. And he's always had a pure heart. He loves the sport. And listen, maybe you'll see him return to the sport, but most of all, we hope he's happy.